Well, welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. Our next guest on the program is an ardent economist and a public affairs analyst, Dr. Aliyu Ilias, who joins us to review the headlines making the rounds this morning. Hello, Doctor. Good morning and welcome to our studios.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, Doctor, would start at one place where there's somewhat of a controversy, and it's all on the position of the economy. Now, particularly at an engagement yesterday in Abuja here, the ex-speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, made a position on what he believes is an inheritance of a comatose economy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's talked about how printing over 22.7 million naira by the then Buhari government damaged the economy. His comments has divided opinions. I'd just like to find out where you stand in reference to his take.
Well, for me, I think he has overstated those things because we are not more in Buhari era. We are now in Tinubu era. So I think he should have speak more, though he actually said more about the reforms. But the fact is that by now we are out of that. We are now in a Tinubu dispensation, and 2 years down the line, we cannot still going back and be talking about the past, because most of what we are actually seeing in Nigeria today is the effect of Tinubu policy direction. So, for instance, the floating of Naira, unification of Naira, it is decision. The removal of fuel subsidy, he actually removed it by himself. And you know, recall that a lot of things have been on ground that they would do before the removal, palliative, refinery will be working, CNG initiative, these are the things that they have actually promised. I think we should focus more on what they're actually doing to actually put the economy in the right position, not going back to, to talk about those things that are in the past. Even though they may have some effect, but now, I think by now, what we are seeing is the result of policy direction of this present administration.
Now, in focusing on the present, how much of a praise is worthy of some of the reforms of the current administrations? Because in the words of the ex-speaker, he says it's revolutionary.
Right. So I want to agree that we've seen unprecedented reforms from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They are very good reforms, and we salute that reform. But the fact remains that economy is about the welfare of people. So if people are still not getting that benefit of those reforms, it's still not enough for Nigerians, because if you look at most macroeconomic indicator, it is reflecting that things are getting stabilized, but stability has not actually
translated to the common masses,
well-being of people, and giving more disposable income. And that's what we actually want to see. We have seen reform in fuel subsidy removal. We have seen reform in Naira unification. We have seen reform in tax. We have seen reform in custom, NSW, National Single Window. So we've seen those robust reform, but we want to see it working. You recall that this is about 2 years, 5 months or thereabouts, and we are now counting down very soon to the end of this present administration. So
in terms of probably a first-term tenure,
the tenure is 4 years in Nigeria, so you have to come for another re-election. So coming again, it's an open opportunity, though it may look as if it's coming back, but we have to be talking about this and the danger is that by next year it will be pre-election year, and the focus will be on what, how it can actually come back. So all other economic issues may take backseat by next year. So we want to see those reality now.
And now you have noted that the macroeconomic indicators speak to the fact that the economy is stabilizing in economic terms, although it hasn't translated to the benefit of the masses in terms of improved livelihood and an increase in disposable income. Looking at some political comments coming in that regard, the People's Democratic Party have called the declining inflation predictions and the exchange rate, which is predicted to even go below 1,400 naira before year end, they believe that it is some form, I'm borrowing from their words now, of a bogus propaganda. They're saying that the current administration is trying so hard to paint a picture which is not reflective of the true position of Nigerians. You are an economist by profession. Looking at the trajectory and the trends so far, amidst this opinion of the PDP, how can we be factual when we discuss the true state of our optimism in line with our economy?
Yes, we could have, it's possible we have good numbers in terms of stability, and that good number could be a factor of a lot of things. A good example, now that our interest rate is about 27.5%, um, it's trading off growth for inflation. And how do I mean? Most investors, especially the global investors, they are here to actually do business, to be in the service sector because the interest rate is high. So if the interest is high, and that is giving exchange rate a balance. So by the time they remove the MPR, reduce it to maybe by 25 basis points, by the time they remove it, does it mean that those investors will still leave their money in our portfolio investment? That is the problem. So sometimes you could have a figure that reflect that yes, you are stable, but it could be temporal in nature and it has not reflect. And that's why Okonjo-Iweala said we have stable economy. We have stable economy is different from we have growth in the economy, let alone talking about development. So what actually happened is that we want to see it reflecting. You could also see that people are saying that food are becoming much more cheap now. That is cheap does not mean people have purchasing power to buy it. You could have a bag of rice at 40,000, but people don't have money to actually buy it. So the purchasing power is the key thing that we must actually look at. So PDP, for their own observation, I think when they are speaking from opposition level, but the reality is that we also want to see those stability reflecting in day-to-day life of Nigerian citizens.
Now, the other angle to this is I keep on looking at more comments coming in this morning, and the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy is talking about how much the nation was able to attract in terms of CNG investments. The figures look a little bit staggering in terms of how high they are pegged. It's also the translation. You just recalled earlier that the subsidy removal was also hinged on the CNG promise. How do we find accountability when we discuss these sensitive issues?
Right. So the only way we can find accountability is the reflection of it in the day-to-day life of people. Like I always use myself as an example. I have a car that is converted to CNG, hoping that by the time I actually do more, it will give me more purchasing power. But down the line, as of today, I cannot go and queue for it because it's going to take me like 5 hours to buy. So the investment has not actually reflect 2 years down the line. It's not a good one. So sometimes you could hear the amount they have expended, but want it to actually reflect on our day-to-day life.
Now, he's also mentioned another staggering figure. Quoting him now, and he says Nigeria needs $100 billion annual investments to revive Nigeria's middle class.
That's from the minister.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy.
I'm happy that he's actually saying it because we don't
$100 billion
because it's
annual
that
investments.
Means the reality is on them now that there is no middle class anymore in Nigeria. So that you have the rich and you have the poor. And middle class are what really makes life better, because a poor man should be able to scale up to the level of a middle class, and that we will now say the economy is now developed, is now growing, not developing, because people can actually move from one status of living to the other. That simply means, but the fact now is that where are they going to spend this
$100 billion
into? That's what we need to.
What sectors should?
Because there's a lot of intervention that we've been seeing. Have they actually reflect? And I hope they are not borrowing this money to actually say they want to revive or bring about middle class. Because if you look at the money we have been borrowing so far, they'll say they give money to some MSME, manufacturing sectors. For me, I think we need to look at import substitution, because if you can have import substitution and add value chain to businesses, I think that can empower more people to have more money. Because there's
now this money we're talking about, doctor, let's break it down. When we talk about middle income earners, what's the bracket in today's reality of the strength of the naira? What should someone be earning to be considered a middle income earner on a monthly basis?
I just answer a question in close to that. Somebody, it was a TV program just like this beautiful one. They were asking, should federal government increase salary? And my answer is no. Should private sector increase salary? My answer is no.
From what to what? From
You
70,000?
cannot even increase salary. The problem we have now is not issue of salary, because it could be any 1 million naira a month. But if by the time you take it
Would that qualify you to be called a middle income earner?
by the time you take that money to the market, what can that money buy for you?
This is a very strong question you have posed. So now, in phrasing my question,
Yes.
do you need to be a millionaire to be considered a middle income
Not
earner?
at all. That's what we are looking at. So it depends on the affordability. You want to get a house, you could have a house. Transport is affordable. Food, you are not spending about 65% of your income on food. You know, these are what will make you a middle class, because you are comfortable in the little amount. 150,000 naira you are collecting can cater to all your need before another month. These are the things that makes you a middle class. It's not about earning 1 million naira salary. If you earn 1 million naira salary today and you have to go pay school fees, you know, pay house rent, you know, transport yourself, and before you know, it has just vanished because the value has been lost. So these are the key things that we need to look about.
Now, Doctor has broken it down in terms of the figure. It's a debate on what constitutes middle income earners in Nigeria going forward. Whilst the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, said that over 100 billion US dollars in annual investments is needed to revive the country's fast disappearing middle income earning class. Debates are on how much should an individual earn currently that would make him fall into that class. In Doctor's analogy, he said even if you earn as much as $1 million monthly, and you don't have disposable income, you have to struggle with paying school fees, house rents. Even 150,000 naira ought to have made you qualified to be a middle income earner in the early 80s and 90s. But as it stands today, that sum is one that might not even take you through the month. Currently, the minimum wage in Nigeria is 70,000 naira. Doctor also says that he does not support the calls for an increase in the minimum wage upwards. Well, this makes for strong debates this morning. Would like to get your thoughts and opinion as well. Now, in coming back to the conversation as it concerns initiatives of governments to better the lot of Nigerians, the Punch newspaper earlier told us that the federal government is unveiling an Agric reform, which is also positioned to create 21 million jobs. 21 million jobs. Well, I'll come back to you on this, Doctor. I'll leave it there.
Right. I think this is a good direction. This is what we want to hear, because you know, we are agrarian in nature, and sometimes when we see that the most performing sector in the Nigeria economy is service sector, most of us were surprised. How can we have service sector performing more where we have agriculture sector, we also have industrial sector? I think service sector should be coming third while we perform. So this speaks to what we are talking about, that we need to do more in that, in our agriculture, empower people to go back to farm, mechanize this farm for them, and make feeder roads and other infrastructure available for people to actually you know, thrive more in the agriculture sector. So for me, I think this is a good one in a good direction. And you know, the federal government also declared state of emergency on food security. I recall that was August 2023. He also said they should crash the price recently now. So we want to see all these things reflecting in day-to-day purchasing power of people, whereby we could have agricultural sector booming and doing more.
When we talk about 21 million jobs, it's also on the value addition across the chain.
Right.
Because I know it's been a recurrent promise of the government to make agriculture appealing to the youth in particular. And it's the mechanization of the process.
Right.
Because over time, subsistent farming is what is obtainable across our large agrarian communities.
Yes.
Whole crude implements are used. There's not enough storage for even transported produce like vegetables, tomatoes, pepper across the country. When you do so, when you listen to some of the players in that transport sector complain about their losses, you might be moved to tears.
Because they are perishable.
How do we ensure that this 21 million jobs target those key value addition chains across the sector?
And that's what federal government just did in terms of she not, right? She not, government banned she not for 6 months. Even though we don't agree with the ban, we can be working on it and not ban the exportation, because it has affected people's livelihood now. So what we are saying is that she not, yes, value addition. You are doing 40% of the international community supply of she nuts, and you are not adding any value. Yes, government say yes, no. Let us be adding value. That would have created even the 21 billion job they are looking at only that sector. Because by the time you create the technology, the funding, the infrastructure for Nigerians to actually go into she nuts, add value to it. You don't just pick and package and just export. No, pick, add value, and actually export. That would have created job for about at least 2-3 levels. The supplier would have got his job. The person that will add value to value to it, maybe the manufacturer or the producer, would have add value. The exporter. So you are giving a 4-point. The picker, the supplier, the producer, and the exporter. You can see that it has add value. Instead of 2 level, you're now giving it 4 level. I think this is what we actually need in Nigeria to bring job. If not, job shouldn't be a problem for an agrarian country like Nigeria.
It is interesting when we look at history, and when you discuss on the subject matter of our mainstay being purely agric driven before the discovery of oil in Olobiri, it's difficult to understand how much the groundnut pyramids have disappeared, the rubber, and some of these cash crops that were the earnings Nigeria had over time. Do you think it is possible to reinvent the wheel?
You don't even need to reinvent the wheel. Just tap on the current ongoing technology. Why do we have cocoa that give us a lot of income? Now cocoa is doing well, but the sad part of it is that we are still exporting raw cocoa. That's the problem. If you look at, because immediately they ban she nuts, my mind is that, okay, let them find a way to work around cocoa. By the time we try to add value to cocoa, add value to our groundnut before we export, it will create the necessary job. But now, as it is now, cocoa is doing well, and we are exporting them
only to import refined products in the dairy products.
It's so sad. You have to look at the beverages that is being use this cocoa to convert. We still take, and we consume it a whole lot because we are a consuming nation. Look at our population, 200 million. That should have been an advantage to our economy, because by the time you are producing for at least 50 million Nigerians, you know what it simply means. So for me, and that's why we're talking about import substitution. Those things that they are important, you can actually make sure that you start. That's where I want this government to focus on. Import substitution. That would have given our economy, stability, and it will bring much more employment, and our GDP will also rise as expected.
Now, government is also expected to create an enabling environment for business to thrive.
Right.
Currently, when you look at reports of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria lamenting how much they spent in alternative energy last year, and the fact that the cost of powering business in the country right now doesn't make so much for the conversation around ease of doing business.
Right. We talked about energy security. That any country that does not have energy security will find it difficult to have an industrial sector, which is very, very good. And that's why you could see that South Africa, they are the leading industrial economy in Africa. It's because the energy is actually available for them to actually to use. And that's why when they unbundle energy sector, these are what we are expecting, whereby we have a cluster like what we have in area market in Newi, we have a Duyard, we have a shredder in Kano, that we can from that kind of place create their own energy for them so that they can actually manufacture and also help. Remember, if there is increase in manufacturing, it will bring much more employment and increase our GDP, right? And also another challenge that we have in Nigeria is the MPR, the interest rate. You could see that the service sector is doing well. You know why the service sector is doing well? It's because the interest rate is high. By the time the interest rate is low, that will encourage the manufacturing sector, the MSME to do businesses, so that the service sector will start to diminish. So we must prioritize agriculture, we must prioritize our industries before we also see maybe service sector coming third.
Now, as we leave matters of the economy, this next topic takes us to the speculations ahead of tomorrow, Thursday. It takes us all the way to Rivers State. Now, the initial 6 months emergency rule elapses tomorrow. The president cut short his work visit to France.
Is that the reason?
That's where I was going to.
Is that the reason?
Could that be the reason? It's all speculation now. We don't know for a fact, but what could have prompted the president to cut short his visit as it's coinciding with the end of the emergency rule in Rivers?
For me, I think president should have been there in his vacation resting. It's just a pronouncement, and can be pronounced via the communication handlers of the
Because the way
president.
we see it now,
So
it's
I
not
don't
so
know.
much of a pronouncement. People are talking about a handover. People are talking about a reinstatement. Do you think it's going to be ceremonial in some case? Does it have a political connotation for the president
it will
reinstate?
be a bad ceremony, because what happened in the first place is an apology, is an aberration. So I don't see it. I don't see any ceremony. Although we have seen Abbas, is it Ibas? We've seen Ibas. We've seen Ibas actually going to the church to actually, do Thanksgiving. But however, I don't think it's called for celebration. I expect tonight president should have a pronouncement that, and you don't need to even have a special pronouncement. Just from the handlers, and say that today, tomorrow, so date,
The suspended
Mubarak
governor,
is
the
now
suspended assembly have been reinstated.
It doesn't need for, and I don't think that's why it should cut short. Maybe there's other urgent reasons, because these are things that they can handle. And I don't think the National Assembly need any pronouncement on its president that also need to pronounce, because the date actually elapsed. Not that he's cutting short the 6-month suspension.
The other big debate is on the position of the People's Democratic Party, which is home to the suspended governor, His Excellency Siminalayi Fubara. Beyond welcoming back a reinstatement, they're urging that the governor probes the interim rule under the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibas retired.
Well, let me speak in the language of the Minister of FCT. So he's still a PDP man working for APC. So I don't know the status of Fubara. Will he, when he return, is he going to return and consider continue his stay in PDP, or is he going to return and consider to go to APC? That's still on speculation. However, that he should probe, I don't think, if he's probing Ibas, that means he's actually probing Mr. President.
By implication.
That's how I see it. If you are probing the administrators, you are probing the National Assembly, and you are probing the president. So for me, I think you should just focus.
Because the National Assembly had oversight of all the approvals for the sums that were disbursed
So
since the administration began.
For me, I think you should just focus on governance with the remaining years that you actually have. You should focus on governance, not looking at that side. Then PDP, why are they talking now? Because I've not seen them actually supporting him as expected. Because somebody in your party, just like other people, even Natasha, I've not seen people coming out to actually support them as it's supposed to be.
During these challenges they face.
Challenges. So now that they are coming back, you want to say yes, is your governor. I doubt if you will be attending their meetings.
This makes for good discussions. Particularly the APC is rumored to be dangling the defection card. Do you think it's a wise take?
Well, for me, for effective and efficient performance, for me, I would advise he accept the invitation, because from the look of things, it's going to be difficult for him to govern that state. Recall, most of these chairmen of local governments are actually, about 23 of them or so, are APC members. And you could see that even the state assembly also, they have sympathy for APC, government. So I think the best for him, if he want to have rest of mind, he should actually go into APC.
Well, let's leave the PDP, APC, and the suspended governor. Let's come to the interim ruling itself under Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas retired. So far, so good. You talked about seeing him going for Thanksgiving. He's boasted about how much peace was enjoyed under his stay as sole administrator. He's also calling for the elders and community leaders to build on what he believes he has established in Rivers currently. How would you assess his performance as sole administrator?
Right. So for me, I think being a military person, we don't expect him to actually actually engage people more. We've not seen engaging because he's on his sole administration. But for me, I think he's like he has done his part. And for me, if you want me to read the part, well, he has bring some level of stability, because if we cannot leave a vacuum. He has come to fill in that side to actually oversee day-to-day administration of the people, but you cannot expect him to perform the way an elected, governor, who would have been getting, feeders, getting information from the chairman, local government, who will consider traditional ruler and others. So I think he has done his part, and it's good that he's actually giving a parting shot at that level. But like you said, let's look at it. If there will be a ceremony, or there will just be an hand shake.
I know that.
Yes.
Now, there are also legal implications to a number of decisions he took as sole administrator. One of the most debated is the local government elections as conducted.
Right. Well, I think there's a lacuna in our constitution. The constitution does not expressly say local government election must be actually conducted by, a democratically elected governor. Perhaps they think to bring peace, they are to do that election, so that by the time it comes around, we just continue to work with them. There won't be, the other faction fighting that it should be it should be yours, it should be like this. So I think we won't say it should. I think there's cases in courts about that. So let's wait for court pronouncement about it, because I recall that some Nigerians actually took it to court that it does not have the right to actually conduct that election. But let's wait for the court pronouncement, if they will pronounce before the end of this administration.
Now, this is just another example of what Nigerians continue to view as a selection versus election process when it comes to the third year of government. Heated debates, be it in Rivers, be it in Ondo, about the functionality of local governments. Supreme Court passed a judgment in that regard. This incidences here and there. What are we building on for the future in terms of how we handle the local governments?
I think the act of selection called election will continue to happen in local government until we have an independent, electoral commission to manage the state local government election. If not, it will continue, because the governor, or as it were, the de facto leader of the state, will continue to have influence on the direction that people actually vote in local government election, because you cannot have a PDP state and expect to have a APC local government, except what actually happened in Rivers, which is under sole administrator. And we understand the imbalance they are trying to work around.
Now let's just recount the scenario in Rivers, where even as the governor, before his suspension, was in charge over the first annulled local government elections, we saw another party come in and clinch 95% of all the seats available.
Right. I think it's APP, or what's the name of the political party? Why he is in PDP. And that's exactly what transpired every state. You cannot see any state that have maybe 30% of opposition party, even 10% of opposition party as chairman of local government, because they believe that once, and that would have helped the autonomy that Mr. President is actually trying to put. Because if I'm a different party and governor is different party, I like to perform, and I saw that this budget is for my local government, I want to use it to develop my local. But in this case, the governor will still call all his chairmen that are in his party that this is how I want things to actually go, which doesn't really go well with developmental agenda, as it were.
Now, before we wrap up, I'll just like to touch on two other stories coming in right now. One of them is on voter apathy. INEC has decried the low turnout of registrations in Enugu and uncollected PVCs as well. Do you see it from the angle of Enugu being a southeast state, and with the level of insecurity in the southeast, hence the reason why? Or what could be some of the factors that have played out in this low turnout of registrations in Enugu?
Well, I think for Enugu in particular, it could be because of security, because we have seen no gunmen in the eastern part of Nigeria, and they're making people to get scared of even involving in anything. Then another thing is governance. When there is deficit, and there is low trust for governance in a country, You see people saying
But,
that.
but
What do
people seem to have drummed the drums about Governor Peter Mba and the exploits he's doing. Do you think that would deficit?
It depends on the reflection. I can tell you, most people that are in Enugu, they are crying. What we are seeing outside Enugu, is not what people inside actually say. Most of them are talking about taxation. He told them to do CFO by which they don't plan for, and it's quite expensive. There are a lot of reforms actually doing that is biting. So people therein are not just that.
Is a
They're not
similar
seeing it.
scenario of investors' drive versus the current realities of the
Exactly, of
masses?
masses. So what people are in Enugu, because I have people from Enugu and I've seen them talking. Honestly, they don't talk directly. They don't talk better, about the governor. But we outside are seeing his giant stride, and it's a serious. It's an oxymoron whereby the way you are seeing it is not the way the other person's actually are seeing. So that could also add to it.
The last subject before we say our goodbyes is a news breaking this morning as it concerns a rejig in school curriculums for senior secondary schools. It's saying that the federal government has chosen to introduce Mandarin and Chinese language as part of the curriculum.
Well, I think it's a good one, because if you look at the way the world is going now, I think Mandarin is taking the economy. The economy is pushing the world, and we are seeing that in global community now. Understanding that language will give Nigeria an edge. In fact, you can see that Naira swap is actually working. They are the one. They are largest trade partner for Nigeria. So there is reason
They're a big
for
player
them.
in our
But
construction and road
we have
infrastructure.
not done well in other languages. French. Remember, I think we do French. It has not really uh, engender understanding the language properly. So I think we need to do more in the French more, because if you look at the West Africa now, I think we are very, very, the English speaking, maybe we are 3 or 4: Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, maybe Liberia. So I think others are speaking much more of a
Francophone.
francophone. So I think we should do more in francophone, and before we now consider Mandarin. Mandarin is good. It should be an option, not it should be general thing.
Now, your assessment on the level of adoption, is it hinged on our knowledge exchange? Because most times you have Nigerians who are learning the language as second-hand speakers of it, other than having natives and professionals who studied this over the years, impacting this knowledge in the children they teach.
In my university, I have a lecturers that their focus is on Chinese, and they actually went there 1 year, 2 years. They came back, and it has a lot of benefits. So for me, I think it's going to be beneficial. But like I said, I like us to prioritize French compared
Above
to
Mandarin. Well, Doctor, I must thank you for gracing the program this morning and your objectivity to the discuss. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains to a close on our current affairs-driven conversation this morning, guided by the newspaper headlines. Up next would be the controversy surrounding filed suits and counter-suits as it pertains to the Department of State Service and Omoyele Sowore over what is now termed anti-Tinubu post on X Meta, all joined in this suit. We'll also be looking at the caution from the All Progressive Congress to the ex-Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar over his status as former Vice President and the possibility of inciting anarchy through unguarded statements. This would make for better conversation after the break. Stay with us.